Hello again, and welcome to One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one person or one starfish at a time. I'm really excited for our guest today. He's a really good friend of mine. We've hung out quite a bit, Dan Hall, and his passion is helping coach men that have financial success, but maybe they don't have fulfillment in other areas of their life, and help them find fulfillment in every area of their life, which is really important. Dan, tell me a little bit about what started you down that journey, where you're at, what made you passionate about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Angela, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be catching up with you again tonight and hopefully providing some value. It started out back when I've always been driven. Okay. And my grandfather from a young age, he had a small town hardware store. We grew up in the middle of nowhere. And he said to me, he said, you can have anything you want. And as I watched my grandfather work his small business, he actually did that. So I believed him. Mm. He said, but the key is you have to work for it. And I said, okay, I can do this. So from age 7, 8, 9, it was mowing lawns, shoveling snow, doing whatever I could do. Got a little bit of money and built the money and multiplied the money, started little businesses along the way. And before I knew it, I was that teenager who was in school and everybody said, well, you're not coming out this weekend, or you're not going to go to the party, or I was always working on something. Mm-hmm. So this continued throughout my mid-20s, and I was a working animal. I started a business, an electrical contracting company, and did fairly well for myself. So by the time I was age 25, I was into 7 figures. And my relationship at the time, everything was going great. And I said, you're good, right? She says, yeah, I'm good. We got the toys, we got the stuff, we got everything. Mm-hmm. But here I sit and I'm like, I'm not happy. Mm. Come to find out she wasn't happy either. And that was the first, I lost that relationship of almost 15 years. Mm. And it was because I was chasing the wrong thing. And I didn't realize this until later, but I chased the money. And we had the stuff and the things, and I was prideful. And being successful at a young age, of course, I wouldn't listen to anyone. Right. So I ended up in this situation. I lost a 15-year relationship with my daughter's mother, wonderful woman who would have done anything for me. I'm happy to say to this day, we're wonderful friends. We've got a great co-parenting relationship. But as we developed that, I had a lot of people reach out and they said, how do you do this? Like, how do you go from where you were to losing your relationship all the way down the spiral to now you seem pretty happy? And the answer is, I went back and, as you know, a lot of self-reflection. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, hey, where do we go wrong? And I chased the wrong things. I wasn't the partner I was supposed to be. So once I got humbled, it flipped things around for me. And I had realized that I've been given the gift of boldness to work with other men, specifically who've been down the same path. And
a lot of people are.
Exactly. And I think what opened my eyes was one of my clients earns well over 20 million a year. And we were at his camp and he said to me, he says, Dan, he says, how do you do it? I said, well, what do you mean?
What?
He's like, you're like 39 years old and you're happy and you're like, what am I missing? And I'm like, wow, I thought you were my mentor. And in a lot of ways he is. But I says, well, we've got to look at things a little bit differently. We've got to refocus. And what it came down to was focusing on what I call the 4 pillars: mind, body, business, and relationships. And as you know, the importance of, I guess, maintaining a harmony really between those 4 areas is the way to live a happy life, because it's not about one or the other. It's really about all 4, in my opinion.
That's so true. And in our society, I find we really, what's the word, put on a pedestal, like financial success. And like you said, this guy's making 20 million a year. You think he should be happy. Like, why wouldn't he be happy? But happiness comes from within, as opposed to, we can't buy happiness. Happiness comes from inside. So that's really neat that you're able to kind of get out there. What are some of the I don't know if roadblocks is the right word, or obstacles, I guess, that you kind of went through? Because I'm around a lot of successful people too, and a lot of them are, you mentioned pride, maybe ego driven, don't want to even admit it. So for you to be able to reach a group of people that are really, and they should be confident, they're doing amazing, they're doing some amazing things, they've worked really 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 hard to get where they're at. How do you get through to that layer? Like if I was, say, a spouse of one of those people or something like that, how would I communicate to them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Typically, guys, essentially men, we have the sense of pride. We're successful, we've done this, we've done that, we provide, and we feel like we're wonderful. But the fact is, how many other men or women in our group are willing to call us out when we mess up? Do they call us out, or do they just kind of be like, yeah, oh, okay? So what I found is there's a few men in my life that I respect because they're accomplished, not only financially, but military men, businessmen, and women both, that have the ability to look at me and say, hey, listen, you're doing real good here. What about this? And a lot of times, as we are entrepreneurs and as we're growing, we're going 1,000 miles an hour. So we get tunnel vision on one section at a time. Maybe it's our health, maybe it's our money, maybe it's our relationships, but we're going to go all in. We forget to stop and pause and look at the other areas of our life. So to get to your question, I believe that I've been given the gift of boldness, because I've been there, to look at these men in particular and figuratively grab them by the throat and say, what are you doing?
Right.
And they say,
I
well,
can see you
what
really
are you
doing that.
Yeah. And they don't, a lot of times we don't want to hear it. Okay. But these are the same men that will go back after that happens, and they won't talk to me for 3 months, but then they'll call and they'll say, yeah, I did look at myself in the mirror, and I didn't want to hear it at the time, but you were right. And that's exactly what I went through too. So we need entrepreneurs, strong men and women. We need other strong men and women in our group that aren't afraid to speak up and say, hey, what are you doing? You're stepping over the line. You're not doing good enough here. Let's pull this together. And how are we going to do it?
That's so good. And now that you're kind of on that, I mean, that's how we met, through an awesome group called Arte. And how, I mean, this is kind of a silly question because you just talked about it, but how important are associations, and what do you do if you, because I feel this is something that's a reoccurring thing. Associations are so important. What do you do when you have associations in your life though that aren't helping you? How do you kind of coach people or suggest to kind of like not have them around maybe as much, or what do you suggest, especially when they're family?
Yeah. Wow. That's a great question. We could go deep on this one. So being young and successful, I didn't really understand the power of associations because I had done it myself. And I thought, hey, we're good, right? And it wasn't until probably 7 or 8 years ago where I had realized the power of synergy. And that is getting with other people that vibe on your level, that have ideas, that have goals, and they're on a mission. And you come together, and the energy is just amazing. And you want to be around those people more often, but they tend to be the minority too. So where do you find them? You have to be purposeful about building your tribe. And when we do that, it's also important, I believe, to look at our current tribe. Who do we hang out with? Typically, it's our parents, it's our close friends. Maybe those close friends go all the way back to high school. I've got a few of those. But the fact is, I believe that most people will, as you grow, they're going to come along for the journey, or they're going to step back and go, whoa, you've changed. What's going on? Not comfortable here. I want the old you back.
Yeah.
And as we grow, we don't want to be the old us. So, as you mentioned, family a lot of times is our worst critic because they know us best. We grew up with them. We have the programming from the time we were kids to believe our family, to respect our family, to trust everything they say, when in reality, that's not always the best thing to do. So there's a whole program that I do called auditing and editing your peer group.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of that has to do with not only your family, but old friends and people that are in your group. And the one way, you've probably heard this before, the one way you can tell if somebody should be in your tribe or not is we all get people that call us or text us, and then we look down at the phone and we have one of two reactions. Okay. It's,
oh no.
not them again. Or it's awesome. What are we working on today? Or how can we exchange energy? So you have a great feeling or you feel drained.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel drained, those are really the ones that you want to take a closer look at and ask yourself, do they provide value? Are we on a similar path?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have similar goals? Is the trajectory similar or is it different? And if it's different, that's okay. We lead different lives, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, they either support us or they don't. Who's clapping for you when you're not watching?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are they saying behind our back? So,
Mm-hmm.
and about parents, it's tough because I'm not a fan of really eliminating your parents out of your life,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a big fan of creating proximity. If something isn't right, if somebody's drawing your energy down, it's about setting boundaries, creating proximity. And we typically get the answer, oh, it's family. We can't. Understood. That's a decision. I'm an action taking kind of guy. So if somebody doesn't bring good energy, if there's a cancer in my life, I'm quick to cut it out. If it's a family member, it depends. Unless there's something extreme going on, like abuse, I'm not a fan of cutting family out completely, rather creating a proximity where they can't necessarily affect my energy
You're
level.
not seeing them for like all day, every day kind of thing.
Right.
Limiting.
Exactly. It's so important.
Limiting associations. That is so important. And I think that's true. And, just even listening to you, I hadn't really thought about it really per se before, but even for them, you might not be a good influence for them because, it works both ways. So sometimes people are like,
Sure.
oh, I'm the one cutting them out. But actually by you sometimes separating, it's actually doing better. I think, as I'm just, like I said, I was just listening to you and I'm like, I think it's actually doing better for the other person because them being around you, if it's not good energy on your side that you're feeling, they're not feeling a good energy either.
Exactly.
So, and that is their journey. Maybe their journey is to do whatever they're supposed to do. And, not everyone's supposed to ride in your life until forever. People are in their life for a season and that's
exactly.
okay.
It's, as they say, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And everybody has a different journey. And I believe that when we give up our expectations of someone else or a situation or anything that's going on, we give up our expectations. Now we're in a place where we can be ourselves, we can love, we can open up, we can truly experience what's out there for what it is and not what we want it to be.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And in your transition from 7 digits in your 25, which is pretty impressive, to switching now to do the coaching a lot and stuff like that, did you find what was one of the biggest challenges for you to be able to convert from success by the world standards versus purpose?
Yeah, great question. We all want something. We have hopes and dreams and ambition. How many of us actually go out and go after it like crazy animals, right? Because a lot of times we're caught up with the job or the kids or the family or running here, running there. At the end of the day, we're exhausted. So it's like, what time do we have? Okay. And we make up all these excuses and all this bullshit. So what it comes down to is, what do you want? Simplest question, hardest to answer. You ask someone what they want, and the chance of you getting a very defined, clear picture is almost zero. So that's what I do. And to fully understand that, I think we really have to live it. If we're going to coach something, we better have lived it. We better have been there. We can't parrot something out of a textbook and pretend we're experts on it. That's bullshit. It doesn't work. So instead,
of that going on around there.
Yeah. So we look out and we say, okay, so there was this dude that, let me back up. Even back then, my first coach, he helped me through a lot of stuff. And he says, Dan, he says, why don't you teach? And I was, what am I going to teach? He says, well, can you teach somebody to make 50 grand a year? And I said, sure. He said, how about 100? I go, sure. How about 7 figures? I go, sure. Like, I'm good at that.
Yeah, because you've
Like,
done
I've
it.
done
You
it.
can do it.
He says, you teach from where you're at. Everybody should share. Everyone should teach from where you're at, because you don't have to write the book. You just need to be a chapter ahead of whoever you're teaching. And I said, well, that makes sense. And he said to me, what do you want? And I was like, wow. We dug deep for a while. And what I truly wanted was not the money. It was the freedom. And I believe that's what a lot of people are after, even if they don't know it. The freedom to be financially abundant, the freedom to provide for your family, the freedom to wake up wherever you want, the freedom to hang out with whoever you want, whenever you want.
Yep.
So
many don't have that.
Right.
And it's cool that you're helping people. I know you got a little one too. And I always say to people, like, what's your dream? And they go, I don't know. Isn't it funny how we tell our kids that they can be whatever they want? I mean, they can be an astronaut, they can be whatever they want until they turn 18. And then you better work for a paycheck and you're living for the weekend.
Right.
Isn't it terrible? Because that's exactly what happened. And you tell a parent that, if you're listening, they know it. That's exactly what happens. And then you talk to adults and it's like, what are you excited about? Oh, it's Friday night. Yeah. I'm like, that's what they're excited about. What are you working for? Oh, to pay the bills.
Yeah.
I'm
for
like,
what?
Oh, man, like that's
for
not
what?
what we want for our kids. So like you said, your grandpa was able to, it was your grandpa, I think you said, you told you, work, you can get whatever you want if you work hard enough, because he had done it,
Right.
And then we tell our kids they can be whatever they want. But are we showing them that they can be whatever they want by our actions? Because if we're not, they don't believe it.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what we say. It matters what we do.
And kids are, what I've learned through my own children, kids are extremely intelligent. Okay. They're not jaded by the world like we are.
No.
They're just there. They take in everything. And if you allow them, they will call you out on your bullshit too. And it's scary. It's really scary, but it's good stuff. And my goal really for my kids is to give them the tools they need to do anything they want. And I'm going to show them. And they see me get up on a Wednesday morning, go out on the motorcycle for the day with my daughter, have a picnic, because that's what we want to do. Yeah. If we want to travel, we travel. To me, it's not necessarily about the money anymore. It's about making an impact. It's about being in alignment with what it is that I want. When you do that, as you know, when you help enough other people figure out themselves, send them down that path, help enough people, you will get what you want. You just got to give without expectation. And that's the beauty of it. It's a wonderful life when you can just give in abundance, you receive in abundance.
And so I know a lot of people, because when I talk to people, and I'm sure you get this, so I'm curious what you would kind of say. So people are like, yeah, that's easy for you to say, Dan. I mean, you're doing good. You're not financially struggled, but man, like I can barely make the paycheck. I can barely put food on the table. We're living paycheck to paycheck. How am I supposed to follow my dreams when literally I'm working like 5 jobs, and there's people out there that are doing all this hands down, and they're talking about this. What's something like, what would you give them for encouragement or an idea in that kind of situation?
Yeah, that's a good question, because especially today, the times that we're in, I look around and all I see is opportunity. It's not that way for everyone though. And one of the first things I would look at is, who are you hanging out with? Who are the 5 people you're hanging out with the most? What does their life look like? Yours looks just like it probably. Okay. As you know, we can rewire our brains. We take the old programming, we put something new in there. And once we train our brains to see something, whether it be money or great relationships or health, any of these things, once we rewire our brains now start to look for that: money, relationships, abundance. And I think the biggest challenge is to rewire an existing mindset that might be limited. And it's done one piece at a time. The analogy is, how do we walk in, we say, well, I've got this scarcity mindset. I realize it. How do I change?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one step at a time. We eat the elephant one bite at a time. So it's small steps. It may be changing your crowd. It may be hiring a coach. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. People say, well, how do you know who to hire for a coach? In my experience, I look for somebody that has done something that I want to do, and they've been successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
They've already done it. They've been there. They've got tangible results to show for it. They can probably shorten my learning curve from like this to this. So invest. And I believe when you invest in yourself, you're making a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The very simplest, cost-effective investment you can make in yourself is to start by keeping promises to yourself.
Mm.
Think about New Year's. New year, new me. I look at these people and I go, bullshit. Show me.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 2 months, 2.5 months, I won't see you at the gym anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell yourself that you're going to go for 6 months. You're going to tell yourself you're going to be disciplined for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage follows through?
Very low.
Very few. So when you don't keep promises to yourself, you're basically lying to yourself. And if you lie to yourself, you are going to lie to other people. I've been through it. When I don't keep promises to myself, I don't feel good.
No.
When I do, it builds confidence.
And it's free to do that. So like, and it's like keep the promises to yourself and you'll start to grow that confidence. I think those are like two so valid points to get you out of, like, if you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube or whatever, obviously you're in a place where you want some difference, you want some change. So, like keep the promises to yourself. What time you get up in the morning, change your associations. And for me, and I'm curious your thoughts, because we've talked a little bit about the associations. What's something, because I remember when I worked on changing my associations and I was like, all right, I need to make this person my friend. And I went like out of my way to do whatever I could to make them my friend. And I think some people are like, well, how do I make these people my friends? What are some things that you suggest? Like if people don't have money, they can't buy into groups or they can't, be part of some of the stuff, but like, man, like what are some ideas on how to change your associations?
Yeah. Be yourself. Be yourself.
Genuine.
You can look at a coach or maybe somebody successful in your eyes and say, I want to be like them. I want. Okay, do it. Maybe that's as simple as reaching out with a voice message in the morning, a phone call, an email, a text. Any of these ways, you can just reach out and start your day with gratitude. Every single morning, for me, it's non-negotiable. I wake up between 4:30 and 5. I do my gratitude. I do my reading. I'm off to the gym most days, not every day. I'm human too. It's routine. Okay. And when we start to make new routines, if we keep promises to ourselves, then these routines become habits. So start your day with gratitude. What's something you're thankful for? If somebody has helped you along the way, no matter how small, whatever they did for you, reach out to them, thank them. And these are just simple steps. They're free, because I've had this. People say, well, I can't afford a coach. I can't afford. Okay. So you're not there yet. I think that's a bullshit excuse, but let's start with the small things. Keep promises to ourselves. Reach out to those people, offer some kind of value. I mean, we all have gifts. What can you give without expectation of anything in return? But what can you give? And keep giving that and give it a lot. Maybe it's your personality. Some people are blessed.
Sidewalk, I don't know,
with a beautiful personality. I mean, share your story. I would encourage anyone. Everybody has a story. Okay. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I did not grow up rich. We were like lower middle class, just working and grinding and just doing what we did to make it work. And I looked at that and I'm like, I don't really subscribe to this. And I was the C student. And I was the guy that was bored in school. And I was the guy that got in trouble and everything else because I didn't follow the rules. Well, I would encourage anyone that's listening to this, if you look around and you follow the rules, you know where you're going to end up. You're going to end up the 99%, just like everyone else. You're going to wake up in the morning, you're gonna fight traffic, go to the job that you hate, come home, fight with your spouse, wake up the next morning and do it all over again. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So do something different. Look around at what the 5 people around you are doing and do something different. It's as simple as that. One little change. I mean, if you take and make one change, if you're on this trajectory and you make a 1% change over time, you'll end up someplace completely different. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And so much of it is free until you can afford. And I agree with that. You can invest into yourself. People always find money for whatever they find important. And you are the most important person out there, is investing in yourself. That's huge for me. And I know for you too. And I think for a lot of successful people, it's just making sure that they're really investing into themselves, that time, that money, that all of that. I mean, but there is so much free stuff at the same time. So listen to that.
There's content all over online. So it maybe money isn't right for a coach, or there's so much content online. There's so many podcasts. There's so many people that whatever problem you have, and we all have issues. Okay. I'm not exempt. I'm sure you're not, but whatever problem is out there in the universe, rest assured that plenty of people have already gone through it and they're still alive. So that's inspiration right there. Look online, find the resources, reach out to people. Maybe it's someone in your hometown. My first mentors, I can remember, I was just a kid in town, but I knew who the millionaires were. And ultimately, I wasn't afraid when I got my license to pull in their driveway, shake their hand, and say, wow, like, I love what you've done. Could you share with me? And the cool thing is, anyone that's truly successful, mentally, physically, financially, anyone that's truly successful and fulfilled will want to give back. And that's the cool thing. But so many people are afraid to ask. So I would say step up and ask. There's a lot of people willing to help you out, but you have to have the courage to ask.
Yes, that's so cool. Well, I could go on, and I know so could listeners, but before we wrap up, I have 3 final questions I like to ask, and then anything you like to listen, leave for the listeners. Guys, we'll have all of his information in the show notes. Please reach out to Dan. Like you said, ask. Reach out to him. He's absolutely incredible. But 3 final questions. Number 1, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but if someone is looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say to help them find it?
Back to, what do you want?
Ask yourself what you want. Go for it.
What do you want? Get really clear on it. Get a sheet of paper, get a whiteboard. Start mapping out, what do you want? When you start to realize and you start to think that way, that you may actually be able to have a thought that you haven't been pre-programmed with, it opens up doors. So what do you want?
What do you want? Second question, what's your favorite quote, or at least the one that comes to mind, and why?
Boy, there's so many.
I know. I was going to say there's so many good ones, I'm sure.
You know what? I'm going to look on my phone because I saw one the other day that's really, really good, and I believe in this.
Sure. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have it written down.
Yeah, I do. I do, because this one's good. I wanted to share it with my team.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
All right. So, all right. Exceeding expectations is where satisfaction ends and loyalty begins.
Explain what
that means. So in other words, if you're out there, you're trying to build a client base, maybe you're in business, maybe you're a new entrepreneur, always do what you say you're going to do, but provide more. Because most people won't. If you just provide more without expectation, you'll be in the top 2% right away. And that's where you start to build loyalty. And if we think about it, think about the relationships we have. How many are truly loyal? How many would have our back? I mean, what do people say when you're not there? They got you or not? So I believe that, especially if you're in business, or even if you just want to be a great person, like loyalty it's key. So I thought that was a good one.
That is a really good one. I like that. And then what's one word or sentence that you want on your gravestone?
Grateful.
Grateful. That's awesome. I love that. Yep. Very cool. Yep. Is there anything that you would like to kind of leave our listeners with for final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, guys, anybody that's looking to self-improve, definitely follow Angela. We've been friends for probably 3 going on 4 years now. And to watch her and her story and what she's done personally and the impact that she's left, she has a gift. Amazing woman right here. Amazing attitude. Just a go-getter who loves people, in my opinion. She's got a gift.
Oh man, I appreciate that so much. Follow Dan too. Now I've got me speechless, but definitely go out there, rate, review, tag us on Instagram, share this, and definitely reach out to Dan. He's absolutely incredible. And I appreciate you guys. Let's go out there, change one life at a time. And as we change one life at a time, we'll be able to make a difference in the world. Thanks.
You bet.